Thank you for bearing with me as I make my way down the stairs. My name is Jaida Pryor, and I'm a master's student in the Marriage and Family Therapy department, graduating this year. Thank you. And what that means is that it's not just marriage counseling, right? I do a good amount of marriage counseling, sure, but it's more of a systemic therapy, which means that we focus on family systems and other systems that impact us, right? Like on a societal level, on a personal level. It's the idea basically that problems don't just exist within us, but between us, right? Nothing happens in a vacuum. So it's all about context, just for a little context. But I really appreciate this event, and I thank you for the opportunity to present, because I'm really interested in policy research, and events like this remind me of the point of policy research, which is basically if you're not able to translate it to an audience or if it doesn't impact people, what's really the point? So I thank you for allowing me to be here tonight, and we'll get started. And please just forgive the heavy breathing. I'm at that point where my lungs are being crushed, so you understand. Yeah, the title of my talk is It Takes a Village. So after 2 years of preparing and training to be a therapist, engaging with therapists, talking with therapists, and so on, I can confidently say that I believe that we need to send way more therapists to prison, okay? And not for the purposes of incarcerating them, but so they can serve in their therapeutic capacity, right? What we're going to talk about is my hunch that sending more therapists into prisons would mean that we can send less kids to prison and send less kids back to prison. So we can send them back into their schools and their neighborhoods, and with their families, and empower them to succeed there when they return and to stay there. So let's talk about it. You know, parents through the millennia have been asking themselves the same questions, right? What does it mean to be a good parent? How can I raise my child or my children well? As you can see, I will soon join their ranks in asking myself the same questions. In fact, I already am, just ask my husband. And I'm sure many who come after me will ask themselves the same questions. But at the far end of this question is the one that asks how we can avoid sending so many of our kids to youth prisons. And in the US, this is an especially pressing question because we send the highest proportion of our youth population to prisons in the world. So a few statistics, what that actually looks like. Over 2 million adolescents are arrested annually in the United States, like I said, marking us as the country that incarcerates the highest proportion of youth in the world. Breaking that down, what that actually looks like is for every 100,000 youth who live in the United States, 114 of them will be detained this year, either as they await trial or having already been convicted of a crime. And what's even more than that is within 3 years of their release, 75% of that 114 will be reincarcerated and they'll go back to prison. And the literature has shown that youth incarceration, it has negative long-term impacts for youth. Includes worse general health, severe functional limitations, stress-related illnesses such as high blood pressure. And this impact is felt by youth through to adulthood, and it reverberates throughout their lives, not only impacting them personally, but also impacting their families. So what does this mean to you, right? Societally, family engagement is still viewed as a last-ditch effort. We have kids and maybe they'll get in trouble, and maybe we'll try to call their parents. Maybe we can't reach them. Maybe we don't try hard enough to reach their parents. But when it gets bad enough, we get serious, and we get our serious face on, and we try really, really hard, and we have to bring the family in because this is serious. And we've missed so many opportunities to engage the family along that path. But I want us to imagine a world where family intervention is the first, the middle, and the last step. I want us to imagine a world where we can operationalize and actualize the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, making it more than just a cliche. I'm a student family therapist after all, so families are my jam. So maybe I'm a little biased, but In my research, I interviewed 14 marriage and family therapists from across the country who have experience working with incarcerated youth. All 14 of them saw family involvement as critical, not only to their success in delivering effective care to those youth, but also in decreasing the chances that that child would return to the facility where they were working. So in that research, it was a qualitative study, so I conducted interviews over Zoom. So a couple of things that they said. One said, family therapy was really important for the program just because they're going to be going home and you don't want them to reoffend. What is the purpose of engaging in family therapy and you make all this progress with a kid, but they go back right into the same environment? What's really going to change? Or what are the chances that it's going to change? Things could change, but it could be more difficult, right? Another participant said, the major facilitator of longer-term sustained effective change was the family's motivation and willingness, truly, because I saw the families that engaged more in family therapy that would come back to the family sessions and be like, this is what I changed, this is what I've done as far as environmental factors in the house and their behaviors, family patterns, anything like that. I noticed those families with the residents, their youth who's incarcerated, did not come back into the detention center. Family therapy was really important for the program. I'm sorry. Yeah, so those are a couple of things that they said as they reflected on their experiences working with incarcerated youth. So again, I ask you, what does this mean to you? It could mean sitting with the hard emotions that exist in your own life, in your own heart, and reparenting your inner child so that you have the capacity to show up for the youth in your life in the ways that they need. It could mean writing a letter to your local government, expressing the shortcomings of juvenile justice that you can recognize, letting them know that there are people who care. It could even mean volunteering at a local shelter or detention center, whatever is in your capacity in that realm. But maybe, just maybe, it could mean that you prioritize supporting the parents in your life and their children through that connection. It could mean offering resources, whether that may look like time, money, knowledge, or wisdom, whatever you might have to offer. But it could look like offering the care that offers and promotes the overall well-being of the families within your reach and within your life. Offering care that prevents involvement with juvenile justice is important, and all of us are a part of that. I only believe we need to send more therapists to prisons when this level of support from a village is not a reality. And that's primarily for teens who experience those economic or social or structural barriers that may prevent them from accessing this level of care prior to incarceration. My research makes space for the voices of the clinicians who work directly with incarcerated youth. And yes, that's an important step toward giving them the best care and resources possible, set under the constraints of classism and racism and inequality. But the best thing for the kids in our lives will always be us, their village. And more bars and more doors and more disconnection from sources of grounding and love won't be the answer. It'll never be the answer. Even more therapy is not the answer to everything. It's a restorative justice practice. Therapy is a response. But my hope is that we not only restore, but that we can focus on building strengths and love and connection where they already exist and building them where they don't, and leaving space for more opportunities, more resources, more village members, because that's what they need. And it's on us to prevent the harm and to grow the justice. Thank you.